Hey, this is Micah with Green Country Worms. I recently finished a watermelon, and what I did is I took the leftover pieces, the rinds, and I froze them for one day. And then after they were frozen solid, I brought them out to the worms, and I set them along here. And So right now the worms don't have any other food in there as far as fruits or vegetable scraps to munch on. And watermelon seem to be something that they really enjoy. My guess is whenever I lift these watermelon up, that there is going to be a good amount of worms swarmed up in there, eating it. And by freezing it, it breaks it down quicker, so they're able to start to eat it a lot quicker than if I put it in there fresh. But I could be wrong. I might lift these up and the worms aren't in there, and they are instead in another part of the bin eating some brown material, some composted horse manure, leaf matter, things like that. But I kind of have a feeling there's going to be a decent amount of worms when I lift these up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in this container, and I'm going to just see, just with a quick grab, how much worms I can get. I've heard this is a quick way to get some worms if you're needing to get like a quarter pound, half pound, maybe even a pound. I don't know if we'll get anywhere close to a pound though. But I'm gonna see what we can get. Maybe I'll be surprised. I'm gonna just lift these up one at a time and see how many worms are swarmed up in there. Now these are not earthworms that you would find in your backyard or anything like that. These are red wiggler compost worms. Eisenia fetida is their species name. And these are worms that are specifically bred for composting, and they do an amazing job. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start picking them up and see what we can get. All right, so here's the first one, and let me get this ready. They don't like the light, so they'll start diving down soon after I lift this up. All right, so yeah, there's some, there's, in that first one, there's not as many as I thought there would be. But there are some, and you can see some are in here. So I'm not even gonna pick any up off of this one because there just wasn't that much. It's possible though they're down a little deeper. And it looks like that's kind of the case. It looks like they're kind of getting the residues and everything as it's dripping down. So they're not right up underneath the watermelon, but they're getting the residue as it soaks in. Okay, I'm gonna put that one back. Let's try the next one. Maybe these will be different as we go along. Okay, that one definitely has more worms in it. But they're not easy to grab onto. So I was thinking maybe there would just be a big ball of them. So as they're eating, basically, so this is a lot of their castings right in here, okay? And so as they've been munching on that watermelon, they're laying a lot of castings. And so the worms are mixed in with the castings, which makes it, I can't just weigh this because you won't get a true weight of the worms. The worms will be mixed in with the weight of the castings, which the castings have a lot of moisture. They're gonna weigh a lot. So far, this is, I've heard about this method. I thought I'd give it a try. Um, in order to harvest these, I would have to run them through a screen, run them through the harvester, or use the light method, where basically I let this pile sit out in the sun, the worms dive down, and I brush off the top layer. The worms keep diving down, I keep brush off another layer, and I just keep doing that until the worms are all the way down into a pile at the very bottom. I've actually done it with a paintbrush before, an unused paintbrush. It's very time consuming though. So it's not ideal. But if you needed like worms in it and you didn't mind spending an hour or more, you can use the light harvesting method. Just it's very time consuming. So here's one of those red wigglers, and they look nice and healthy, very healthy. They have a neat coloration. You can see some yellow down in there, and then from yellow to red to purple, lots of different colors. All right, moving on to the next one. So far, it hasn't just been a nice, easy grab. So, all right, there's, like 3 or 4 worms. So far, I'm not really impressed with this method of trying to harvest worms. I do think, though, it can bring up some worms, and then you can harvest the material. Because there does seem to be a lot of worms mixed into the material underneath the melon, but they're not just easy to grab. All right, next one. Here we go. Yeah, I'm gonna guess it's gonna be like this all the way down. And yeah. So I myself would not use this method to try to harvest worms by putting food scraps and then getting them to come up, because so far it's not doing what I've heard people say, that you can real easily grab a mass of worms. Honestly, there's not as many worms in here as I thought there would be. I really thought they'd be a lot more swarmed, and I didn't think, so I put these in almost a week ago. I didn't think there would be this much melon left. I thought they would go for it a lot quicker. So maybe it could be that they're just not ready, that the bacteria, fungi, microorganisms in there are going to need to break this down a lot more before the worms are going to go after it. There's a nice little family of worms there, but not enough to start counting towards a pound or anything. It seems like when I put pumpkin in here, pumpkin does a lot better even than the watermelon. All right, next one. All right, this one has, a couple of spots of worms. They're definitely, grouping up in there to get the watermelon as it's rotting and breaking down, decomposing. So as we go down a little bit more, let's try the side. Let's see what's happening on the side over here. Seems to be a good amount of worms hanging out to the side of the melon. These are pretty much all adult red wigglers. So they're full-grown, mature breeders. In the spring, I had a lot of baby worms, but they've all grown up. I don't really see too many small ones now. All right. Okay, next melon. This one has actually a pretty good little mound of worms in here. In my hand here, it feels like there's a pretty good amount, but they're mixed in with their castings and other debris. So, you know, this could be a good way to get the worms up to the surface and then grab a hunk of material and worms together, but then you gotta harvest it from there. You can see they're nice and plump. That's how you want red wigglers to look. Nice and plump like that. If they're real skinny looking, they're probably not getting enough nutrition, or you might not have enough moisture. And you'll see other little life in here too. There's a whole ecosystem of little creatures that are helping break all this down. There's mites, there's you know, what they call roly-polies, a small amount of roly-polies. But what's cool is they kind of balance each other out. Like if there becomes too many mites, then I'll start seeing like other little creatures that eat the mites, and then so they kind of balance each other out. If one gets too big, another one will come in and kill off the one that's overpopulated. I think this is the best one so far. So, but yeah, you know, it's still not a ton of worms, but you know, some people cannot stand worms. I have always been fascinated by worms, though. I just think they're so amazing. And sometimes I get laughs whenever I tell people what I do, that I run a worm farm. But I'm like, you know what? I just really enjoy it. And the product they make, the worm castings or vermicompost, is such an amazing natural product. All right, here's the last one. This one has quite a bit on the top here. So you can see they're immediately trying to get away because they know they're in trouble if they stay in the light. They don't want to be in the light because birds will eat them and they'll just die in the sunlight. I've read somewhere before that if the sunlight kind of paralyzes them, and that's why sometimes we might see them dead on the sidewalk. I don't know if there's more to that or not, but all right, so I thought I would give this a try. And, you know, like I said before, this is not a way that I would by itself, or, you know, just using this method, harvest worms. I might use it along with, you know, the harvester to harvest some red wigglers. It definitely did bring them up to the surface. So let's test out an area that doesn't have any melons or anything, and see and compare that to a spot that had a melon. All right here. I'm gonna see what kind of worms are down in here. This is kind of in between two melons. So there's still some worms down in there. All right. If you liked this video, you know, like it and subscribe. I'll be putting out more videos about worm farming. All right, have a great day.